Welcome back to this special edition of Cattlemen to Cattlemen as we discuss public lands ranching. And Tim, I want to get right into it and discuss why these Western lands issues, like the Public Lands Council and everything you guys are working on, is not just important to Western ranchers, but really the entire U.S. beef cattle industry.
Well, I think we all need to understand, as Kaitlynn mentioned earlier, the number of acres that are being grazed. It all comes down to economics, 101, if you will. There are a number of cattle on federal lands in the West. And I'll just use Colorado as an example. A little over 3 million acres of federal lands. 85% of the 3 million head of cattle in Colorado spend some portion of their life on federal lands. Now that's big. That covers a lot of acres and a significant number of cattle. So I think we have to consider the economics involved, impact that it will have on the industry throughout those cattle's life.
And Russell, it's 85% in Colorado of those cows that spend time on public lands. Across the West, that's 63% in any given year. So you look at 2022, 63% of those cows spent time on public lands. Certainly some of those, that year's calves moved off, moved into other parts of the country, and you have a new calf crop. So that number continues to build. They feed into the rest of the national supply chain. And so those lands are integral, not just to the regional stability, but to the national supply chain. If you have that forage taken away, or if you see the impact of wildfire, you see that all the way down the supply chain, all the way to the grocery store. So these lands are incredibly impactful. They have an outsized impact on the national industry.
Absolutely. So Skye, what role do environmental regulations such as endangered species protections play in limiting or even altering our grazing practices?
Oh man, Russell, that's a big one. There's so many ESA regulations that we deal with on the federal lands, whether it be the sage grouse listing and taking some of those lands out of production for conserving sage grouse. The fish issues in the Northwest, dealing with the salmon and the steelhead recovery that's coming back, the reintroduction of the gray wolf. These all affect the grazing patterns, but science is on our side. I'll take the sage grouse issue that we just got a study out of the University of Idaho that shows that grazing is actually beneficial to the recovery of the sage grouse. So we need to get more and more of those types of scientific studies out there to show that grazing is a positive for these lands, not only just for the economic of the livestock industry, but for the wildlife as well.
So Kaitlynn, maybe describe what your stance is on the growing opposition to public land grazing from environmental groups.
Public lands grazing can often be divisive because it's very regional, and so only a certain number of people see it in any given year. I don't think that the opposition to public lands grazing is growing. I think it's changing and it's a little more visible, maybe because of social media or other means. But the good work that Tim and Skye do and the thousands of other public lands ranchers do is growing in sort of the social consciousness, right? People like cows, they like sheep, they want to understand more. And so it's more of an education for the public and then a very targeted opposition to the people who want to take them out of business. There is that opposition. There are those people, but I think that they continue to dwindle, and I think their methods continue to get more desperate as time goes on.
Hey, Tim, I was just going to come to you next. I mean, doesn't that make it even just more important than ever for producers like yourself that are utilizing America's federal lands to tell your story and deepen that connection and that relationship to that non-livestock producer?
So Russell, absolutely. And I guess I maybe have a little different take. Rather, I look at it as education opportunities. We have to educate. As we move cattle on and off of our allotments, we meet a lot of people. There are, for whatever reason, that they're out there in the multiple use. Once they understand what we're doing, what we're providing, that their whole aspect, I have found, changes on the way we're doing business out there. So I look at it maybe as not growing opposition. I look at it as a chances for opportunity to educate, so they understand the benefits our cattle is doing to those public lands and what we're going to leave for the next generation of recreation.
Can I take it a step farther, Russell? We just come through one of the worst wildfire seasons for a long time. And we proved time and time again that grazing reduces the wildfire risk. So I'll bet there's a lot of people in California right now wish they'd have had some kind of grazing on those hills. And we see it in the West all the time, the ability to use livestock to graze in fire breaks to reduce fine fuels. So as they breathe smoke all summer long, maybe they're starting to put the connection, geez, if we just had some livestock grazing out there, maybe we wouldn't be in the smoke all summer. So opportunity to educate.
Well, there's a lot of opportunity, and just thank goodness that public lands ranchers like yourself and America's General Society has groups like NCBA and Public Lands Council watching and working on everyone's behalf.